statement is that as successful as Leket has been in rescuing food in Israel, the numbers are absolutely staggering. 2.4 million tons of food wasted in Israel every year, 33% of all the food produced.
Now, you're focusing on institutions, but let's for a moment talk about the homes. We understand that lots of food is thrown away also at homes?
What we've seen in surveys we've done and from the world is that about 50% of food waste happens in the home, 50% in industry. This entire report we released today is only talking about what's happening before it makes it to the home. So you can double, at the very least, the amount of food that gets wasted in Western countries.
So when it comes to the homes, it's maybe mainly about education. Don't buy too much, think what you're buying. But when it comes to institutions, there's an economic issue here. They need to throw away some of their food. They need to prepare more. There's issues that, how can you deal with it all?
So we believe, of course, that institutions are rational and they're trying to make as much money as they can. And they have looked very carefully at how to minimize their waste. Certainly after we've come into existence, they think about it more and more when they see how much food they're giving to us. But what we know is that there's a cultural issue here and there's an economic issue. When you make an event, when you make a wedding, when you make a bar mitzvah, okay, the last thing, or you go to a hotel, the last thing any of these institutions want is to run out of food. And in fact, the culture expects, even at the end of the buffet, that there still be a bounty available. So no matter how much anyone thinks about excess food, it's always going to exist. The most important piece, though, is that we don't let it go to waste. We're not here today talking about wasted food. We're talking about the proper utilization of excess food. That's what Leket stands for.
Okay, so what do you do, and what are you hoping and demanding that the state come and assist and take part of?
Okay, so what Leket does today is run a very sophisticated and large logistics system, including paid staff and volunteers who work tirelessly to rescue food from farmers, from the army, from corporate cafeterias, from hotels, and from industry. What we're calling on the government to do is to get more involved, whether it's providing additional resources to Leket, by whether it's committing government entities to lower their food waste. So, for example, the United States, the U.S. government has already insisted that by the year 2030, the food waste in the U.S. will be reduced by 50% in government institutions. We're calling on the government of Israel to do similar things like that, as are being done throughout the world today.
What can you tell us about the responses when you come to a hall, a wedding hall, and give them this idea? Do they right away accept, or right away want to take part, or deterred from the idea?
Israel's a fascinating country. Almost everyone says yes. It's been rare in my 13 years since we started this organization that people say no. In this country, they don't say, what's my risk of legal liability? What kind of tax deduction can I get? They simply say, we know there's an issue of poverty. We have a perfectly good resource that's going to waste. How can we help? Beautiful thing to say about the culture of this country.
And as we touch the topic of chesed, of charity, a few words about the name. It's really an important concept in Judaism, Leket.
Leket is a biblical term which means gleaning. And in the ancient times, farmers were commanded, Leket, Shikha, Upeah. There were three biblical concepts requiring farmers to leave portions of their field to the poor, requiring farmers things that fell off their wagons, not to collect them. All that had to be given to the poor. And in fact, one of the things I love most about that is that the portion of the field had to be accessible to the poor. You couldn't be a farmer who said, I'm going to give them a field that they can come to, but it was 10 miles outside of town. It had to be something accessible to the poor. What we're doing today is taking that beautiful, ancient, biblical concept and modernizing it for a wealthy Western world, which wastes food with abandon, disrespects food, while at the same time we have so many people who are in need.